If I may, I do want to go into updating you about the cyber attack. After we do that, I want to then transition into the Sewage and Water Board. So just maximize the time and information while we have you, if you don't mind. So we appreciate that. So we are in recovery mode. There is no evidence of personal data being lost at this time. Credentials were compromised. But again, we are now beginning recovery. Our IT director will come up and share more with you as I'll move through our public safety team as well. But what we know is about 4,000 computers. When we talk about recovery mode, it's about building, like you're building a new house. And this is as it relates to our technology within city government and making sure that we're building it, of course, stronger and more sustainable as we move forward, with absolutely always having to maintain and create routine maintenance as it relates to technology overall. It's a reality. But we know with building it, it's also looking at the impact. 4,000 computers that will need to be scrubbed, 400 servers affected, about 7,000 terabytes of data, 20 systems overall that we believe in terms of being brought online, and that touches heavily public safety. But I'm going to now move forward and allow our director, Kim LeGroux, to give us more information from an informational technology perspective. Kim, where are you? Okay.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor. We've worked over the past 24 hours with our Louisiana National Guard and our cyber security teams, both on the state and federal level. The forensic investigation is still in progress. So there's much that we are still to learn about this attack, the mechanisms, and what was significantly compromised. As the mayor said, we expect that data loss has been very minimal. We are glad that we were able to respond quickly, that we started looking at our response and what we considered suspicious activity in the very early morning, in a way that we do on a regular basis, which is to look at attacks, and there are threats that persist and come against the city on a regular basis. So our teams are experienced at examining those things, and we're able to get a handle on what was happening very early on. We have even conferred with the state on the recent attack, and while this one may have some similar characteristics, this is unique, and this environment is very different from theirs. So we are handling this investigation as thoughtfully and as thoroughly as we can. And at this point, we have enough information to move into recovering our systems. That will be our focus. We are looking to provide more information about city services and how quickly we can bring them back online to you very soon.
Okay, thank you. And we know that we will hear a little bit more from Kim when we get to the Q&A part of this press conference. So thank you for that. As I mentioned on yesterday, and just updating you again today, that we are not alone in this. We do have partners, not only at the local level, state and federal level. So with that, I'm going to ask Colonel Durrell if he would come forward and give us an update relative to the impact of the Guard.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. We hit the ground running. We embedded with the IT staff here with the city. We're assisting them at the assessment and the recovery phase of this event. It's a good team effort. Everybody's working together. It's taken us long hours. This is the new norm. This is what's happening nationwide. It's just not this city. It's statewide, nationwide. It's what we've come to do. Our team is ready. We're assisting these guys, and we look forward to resolving this issue.
Now, I'm told, too, that we have 25 additional guardsmen who will be joining us as well.
Yes, ma'am. As we start the re-imaging of all the endpoints on your network, we'll be bringing 25 additional guardsmen on site.
Thank you so much. That's just very important as it relates to the recovery aspect of where we are now in this process. And, of course, moving forward with building I say that new house, again, that new infrastructure that is required. Now I would like to ask our Director of Homeland Security, Colin Arnold, for an update.
Evening, everyone. Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness continues to maintain the city's Emergency Operations Center upstairs on the 9th floor in support of Kim and the operation that's going on to recover from this incident. And we maintain the relationships and the communication with our state and federal partners, such as the National Guard, the state police, the FBI, and the Secret Service. And we will continue that 24 hours a day throughout this incident. I will say that we are also utilizing the NOLA Ready and the city's emergency notification system internally to ensure that we're providing adequate communications between employees and also between employees and leadership and the executive staff of the city. And it's very important to maintain that communication also from a public safety standpoint. So I can tell you that the public safety radio system that we utilize, that is part of the state of Louisiana's radio system, has functioned without any issues whatsoever, and again is not reliant on any city network for its operations. So that has worked as well. I mentioned yesterday that the Real-Time Crime Center was operational, and I was not fooling. It's been operational the entire time. Unfortunately, two persons last night decided to test our system by vandalizing 6 cameras with spray paint. We caught that video because I said the cameras were working. They continue to work, and that relevant footage of them doing that has been turned over to NOPD for investigation. So I will remind the public again, we take the public safety of this city very seriously, and the Real-Time Crime Center is a major tool in that, and it will continue to be operational throughout this event. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'm going to call on our superintendent of the New Orleans Police Department, Sean Ferguson, who will give you an update, and that also speaks to this new investigation we will now have going on relative to our cameras that were compromised, but at the same time, with the quick action of our team, we were able to clean them up, and they are fully functional, as Colin just reported. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. New Orleans Police Department, again, our services have not been impacted whatsoever. We continue to respond to calls for services in the same manner in which we have always done. We're also communicating very well on our radio system. Our body-worn cameras as well as our in-car camera systems are working also. We are not having any issues whatsoever with regards to any of our protocols. As Colin mentioned, with regards to this investigation, this vandalism investigation, we do not take that lightly. We take it very seriously because this is an intricate part of our investigation. This is a part of what we need as we try to make our city safer every day. So the camera systems is very much embedded into the New Orleans Police Department, and we'll continue to follow up and identify the individuals that are responsible for that. But again, services have not been impacted, and we are ready and prepared to do our normal services as we have always done. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you so much. Superintendent Tim McConnell with the New Orleans Fire Department.
The public safety services that the New Orleans Fire Department provides have not been impacted. We're working as we would in a hurricane scenario. We're working on hard copies. All that stuff will get put back into the systems once they're back up and running. We've pulled our technology all back in so it can all be worked on, reprogrammed, re-imaged. And I got a brief update right before I walked in here. IT is already at headquarters wiping the computers and getting them re-imaged, so we'll be able to get back up and running quickly. And thank you, Kim, to your team. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief. And so I want to now call on our director of the Orleans Parish Communications District, and that's Tyrell Morris.
Good afternoon, Mayor. So 911 again was not impacted and continues to operate as it always has been. 311 also is available either by phone and the website. As Zach mentioned yesterday, and he'll mention again, 311 is there to be a liaison for anyone trying to access services from the Office of Safety and Permits. We are ready to take those inquiries and make sure you get the services that you need to move on. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to now call on our Chief Samaran. Are you come just give some update?
Thank you, Mayor. Just as with police and fire, our emergency response operations have not been impacted. by the cyber attack. We continue to ensure that all of our systems function properly. We also believe that there has been no breach in any confidential patient or financial data from any of our systems, because none of those systems are on the city network. Those are housed separately through separate contracts. We do believe that our non-emergency services, such as billing and patient records, obviously there will be a delay in that if you call for that assistance. We do ask that you call 311 if you have any questions about any non-emergency services. If you need a bill or if you need any patient records or any non-emergency information, definitely call 311 and that information will get over our staff to assist you as quickly as we can. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief. Colonel Everett, Public Safety, Homeland Security.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to make one comment that as we work together, I think you've seen displayed not only yesterday, today, but every day in this city, the professionalism of individuals and organizations that define resilience. This is a resilient city. It has to be because of the conditions we live under. And I think the daily display of the professionalism of the organizations and our support organizations at the state and federal agencies make us the definition of resilience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Colonel, for that. And as yesterday, I kind of talked about some of those departments that are really forward-facing to the public, and the Office of Safety and Permits is one of them. So I'm going to call on our Director, Zach Smith, to give us an update. Zach.
Thank you, Mayor. The Department of Safety and Permits is ready to be fully staffed and open Monday morning for any and all needs related to inspections, to apply for new permits, to work on getting existing permits that are in the queue issued, and to work on certificates of occupancy to help people get in their homes, get their electric on, get their gas on, open their businesses, or get documentation they need for any tax credits or banking issues. We gave out some phone numbers yesterday. We'll make sure that those are sent back again. We also want to remind folks that, again, 311, if they call 311 and ask that they need to get to the Department of Safety and Permits, that is a good end around. It's also going to be a good digital way to track that information. But we have phones, we have our inspectors have their work phones. We will be able to conduct inspections. We will be able to do as much business as usual as possible, with potentially a little bit of a slowdown, just trying to do some double and triple checking of some records before things are able to walk out the door. One thing of note, since we are going to be so public facing and people are going to want to come down and get permits, for the sake of the argument for right now, I wanted to remind the public that if you have any application fees to pay, any permit fees, to bring checks or money orders. We will be able to keep those and process those once we're fully back up online, but that way we can work on that. I don't believe we'll be able to process like we normally are, but we will be able to take those checks and hold on to them, as we will have duplicate and triplicate versions of everything to make sure that there are no mistakes made with your records. With that said, the State Fire Marshal's Office is aware of what's going on with us. They are fully on board to make sure they communicate any of their needs to us and vice versa, to again make sure that commercial businesses are not affected by this. Entergy is fully prepared to handle through 3 separate methods of communication with the department, again to not delay any meters getting released for electric or gas services. And we are ready to be open for business for all of the public on Monday morning.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Zach. And what I would also like to say, now we know that we can continue to use, in terms of our employees, use our city phones, but city email, not at all at this time. But make no mistake about it. Any shell emails that we do use, we do understand that they will and always will remain of public record. But that is just a need to say that, because we're focused on, again, our need to be as transparent as possible and be accountable to that. So with that, LaToya, what I want to do, I want to take questions. Then after that's done, then we'll brief on the Sewage and Water Board, if that's okay. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Mayor, you mentioned that you said credentials were compromised, and also there's data that includes public safety. If I'm understanding right, that's compromised. Is that?
Now, what'd you say? You said credentials and what? No, no. And so I'll have Kim kind of educate, because a part of this too is educating the public. I mean, technology in some cases can be very intimidating, you know, to people. And as it relates to that, it's also the terminologies that are used that we need to take and use this as a teachable moment as well. So I'll bring up Kim and have her give you a little bit more information about what we mean when we say credentials.
So what we know about the attack is that the method in, or it's the how. We don't know that any actions were performed, and we said yesterday we've never confirmed that any credentials were given out. But when we think about, or when we look at how the access might have been permeated, or how our environment might have been permeated, it was through a compromise of credentials that belong to city employees. But as far as our data goes, we've minimized data loss because part of our strategy is to always detect for these types of risks or these types of events. The hurricane analogy, hurricane is coming. We do your best to prepare for it. So investigating and looking at suspicious activity on our network was a thing that we do all the time, and we started to see this very early. The fact that we were detecting that risk as early as we did minimized the loss of data. So we are now looking to recover from a very resilient platform that we have, backed up data that we have, and restoring. So our recovery process means that we take a new and clean structure and we load information into that clean structure. But part of what we do and part of our resilience is making sure that we are prepared for events like this, and that's what we've done over time.
When the public hears things about data loss, though, I think a lot of people think just things like documents or things are just gone. Is that the case? Or just
No. So data loss can be equated with encryption. So usually when hackers try to seize your data, what we consider loss is that they've encrypted it. That means it becomes unusable to you. And they want to hold that data ransom or hostage and say, we'll give it back to you if you pay us. The best strategy for that is to have resilient backups of your information. So if that data becomes lost or encrypted, our strategy is to restore from unencrypted or information that we've protected. And that's where we are. It's called a layered approach to security, and that's the one that we take. It's what most cybersecurity professionals recommend. And that's the investment that we've made significantly over the past year, and that we continue to build on on a multi-layered security platform.
Katie Rex, all the advocates. Do you have, so when you back up the city server, you do that like every day, or, I mean, just so that it goes to the separate, when you're talking about rebuilding your house, you're rebuilding with data from just one day? Like, if there's a chance that any data is lost, is it that day's data, or can you?
It could be any of those things, but we just keep a very consistent and healthy regimen of how we how we back up and preserve our data. So some systems it's daily, but there's other information that's highly time sensitive, and those transactions happen in seconds and milliseconds. So active backups and active systems that are redundant and parallel are the best strategy for us. We don't give away too much information about how we do this because it does tip off
Security.
It does tip off the hackers.
I mean, that's the truth.
But as with any maintenance, whether it is a house or anything of value, we do have a regular and healthy regimen that we follow to make sure that our data is safe and that we maintain adequate backups of our information.
Just for clarification, when you say an employee's credentials was used as the method, you mean like somebody's username and password?
Yes, that's what we suspect, but forensics is still going on.
Okay, do you suspect at this time it was one person or multiple?
We don't know. It's just the mechanism that we understand.
Just to clarify the scenario that you just gave about somebody taking your information and then asking for you to pay a ransom, have you heard from any hacker or cyber attack
No.
person? Okay.
No, we have not.
That
Yes. And I want to say that we shut down and suspended our operations out of an abundance of caution. This is what we have been known to do. We've been advised to do this as best practice. The state took a similar course. So that does not mean that that information is unhealthy or unavailable, that those systems are broken. They are just offline so that we don't find ourselves subject to any further attacks or any further communication.
And I would also add, taking precautionary steps is something that our administration did and continues to do, but also as it speaks to consolidating our systems into one, as we talked about the electronic reporting system, for example, and you heard from our CFO on yesterday about our data lives on a cloud. So that is not compromised at all, but it's taking those steps to ensure that we have all the preventative measures that are in place, and we'll continue on that path as we build this house.
I have another question for Kim.
Okay, go ahead.
I
Come
know
on,
you
Kim.
said you caught the issue pretty early on. Do you mind painting kind of a timeline as to when you first identified an issue, how you kind of identified that that was an issue, and then when you were able to take action?
I'll tell you what I can tell you. So routine checks. When we start routine checking of our data of activity on our network, and that starts very early in the morning. So usually notifications of suspicious activity are seen by the staff. This is part of what they do on a regular basis, and those notifications we started to see. But because we receive a plethora of notifications about different types of activity, what is commonplace in environments of our size would be suspicious emails, phishing attacks and attempts. Those things all have to be investigated. So we began that process very early on. I want to say that our users were so instrumental in this process, and it's because when they came to work and they detected suspicious activity, they reported it immediately to us. So between 8 and 9 a.m., there was an uptick of activity. What that helped us to do was to start to gauge the level of issue, right? So that helped us raise the severity, and between 9 and 11 a.m. we were able to verify what type of attack or what type of suspicious activity actually existed in our network.
So you're saying all of this happened in one day?
Yes.
All of this happened yesterday?
Yes.
Any other questions? So people came to their desk and they had some sort of weird email that everybody was reporting that they were getting the same kind of email, or what was?
Yeah, don't create a situation, because you're adding things that no one up here said. No, this is very important. So don't create the scenario. Let Kim then re-clarify what maybe you didn't understand.
So suspicious activity. We examine alerts. We examine information, whether it's suspicious emails or just activity that they considered abnormal. They began to report to us. At the same time, we monitor our systems. So when we see upticks in traffic or any other type of activity that is outside of our normal, we investigate as well. So those things were kind of happening in parallel for us. The biggest thing that we ask our users is to report phishing emails or emails that seem unusual to us. There were some of those reports, but there were other things going on in the environment that we considered abnormal. So we investigated all of those things over the course of time.
Any other questions on the cyber attack? Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you all so much for that.